Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world where everybody's talking, posting, tweeting, venting, sharing every little thing they go through. But let me warn you today, not everyone who hears your problems wants you to solve them. Some just want to hear your struggle so they can feel better about staying in theirs. Some are smiling to your face, but collecting your pain as evidence that you'll never rise. And if you keep telling the wrong people the right things, you'll stay stuck not because you're weak, but because you've been pouring your soul into ears that were never meant to carry your story. You've got to learn that your problems are sacred. Your pain is private. That doesn't mean you carry everything alone. It means you become wise about where you lay your burdens. See, not every ear deserves access to your heart. Some people can't handle the weight of what you're going through, and others will twist it to use against you later. You've got to protect your peace, guard your growth, and understand that the most powerful transformations happen in silence, in solitude, in seasons where nobody knows the hell you're walking through, but they're going to see the version of you that walked out of it stronger. Now, I'm not saying you never speak. I'm saying stop giving the enemy a front row seat to your struggle. Everybody doesn't need to know what you're going through. Sometimes the best thing you can do is get quiet, get focused, and go build. Because when it's all said and done, people don't remember your problems. They remember your comeback. So today, I want to show you the truth about silence, about wisdom, and about how holding your peace can protect your power. Let's get into it. Silence is not weakness. It's strategy. In a world that equates noise with power and attention with success, it takes strength to stay quiet. It takes confidence to withhold your struggle when you know you could win sympathy by sharing it. It takes discipline to say, I'll keep this between me and God until the work is done. See, silence doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're doing something so powerful, so sacred, that it doesn't need to be broadcasted. It means you're choosing to develop in private because you understand that growth done in secret has the strongest roots. Some of the most dangerous people on the planet are the ones you never saw coming. The ones who didn't announce their every move. The ones who didn't beg for attention. The ones who suffered quietly, worked quietly, healed quietly. And when they showed up, they weren't looking for validation. They were looking for results. That's what silence does for you. It keeps your energy from leaking. It keeps your vision protected. Because the more you talk about your problems, the more you give them power, and the more you feed them with attention, the more they grow. But the world will tempt you to talk. Social media will tempt you to vent. Your emotions will scream for an audience, because it feels good for a moment. It feels good to say, here's what I'm going through. Look at what they did to me. Look at how hard this is. But that moment of emotional relief often comes at the cost of your momentum, because now your focus is split, your energy is diluted, and your problems, instead of being dealt with, are now being shared, analyzed, and judged by people who were never supposed to hold them in the first place. Understand this, not everyone who listens cares. Some people are just curious. Others are collecting information, not to help, but to use against you. They're not there to lift you up. They're there to watch you unravel. And the moment you give them that access, you lose a piece of your power. You give them insight into your vulnerabilities. And in this world, your vulnerabilities can become ammunition. That's why you must become selective about where your pain goes. Not because you're bitter, not because you're proud, but because you're wise. Wisdom says, heal in private, work in silence. Let the results make the announcement. The people who need to know what you're going through, your mentors, your closest circle, your therapist, your creator, those are the ones you go to. But everyone else, they don't need a front row seat to your process. Because some people are only supportive when you're broken. They like you more when you're struggling, because it makes them feel less guilty about not trying. But when you start to rise, when your silence turns into strength and your growth becomes visible, that's when their smiles start fading. That's when their real intentions show. Keeping your problems to yourself doesn't mean bottling them up until you explode. It means directing them wisely. It means choosing progress over performance. It means asking, does sharing this move me forward? Or is it just a moment of emotional indulgence? And most of the time, if you're honest, you'll realize you're not looking for solutions. You're looking for validation. But validation is a trap. It's like a sugar rush, quick, addictive, and empty. You feel seen for a moment, but then what? You still have to go home and do the work. You still have to face the pain. You still have to overcome the same obstacle you just posted about. But now, instead of doing it with focus, you're doing it with an audience. And that audience, they're not invested in your outcome. There's something sacred about suffering in silence. Not because suffering is noble, but because silence gives you space to grow. It gives you room to hear yourself, to think, to reflect, to ask deeper questions. When you're always talking, always venting, always explaining, you're not listening, you're not processing, you're just releasing steam. But when you get quiet, you start to gain perspective. You start to hear your own patterns. You start to notice where you keep getting stuck, not because life is unfair, but because your reactions keep repeating the same cycle. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will come in seasons where nobody knows what you're going through, where the only conversations are between you and your creator, where your tears hit your pillow and no one sees them. But you wake up the next day and go harder. You keep showing up. You keep grinding. You keep building. That's real strength. That's the kind of quiet endurance that makes you unshakable. Not because everything is perfect, but because you've learned how to protect your process. And make no mistake, silence is not absence. Just because you're quiet doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're focused. It means you're tuned in to a frequency most people can't hear. It means you're building something sacred, and sacred things don't belong on display until they're ready. You don't show people the cake before it's baked. You don't show people the house before it's built. So why do we keep trying to show people our healing while it's still happening? Why do we feel pressured to explain our pain before we've even understood it ourselves? Your silence is your sanctuary. It's where your ideas are born, where your confidence is rebuilt, where your next level is being crafted brick by brick. You don't owe anyone a breakdown. You don't owe anyone an explanation. What you owe yourself is peace, protection, and permission to grow in private, because the fruit will speak for itself. The victory will announce you. The glow up will be louder than any post, any conversation, any vent session you could ever have. Now, this doesn't mean you isolate. It doesn't mean you shut everyone out. It means you elevate your standards. You don't throw pearls before swine. You don't let small minds dissect your big problems. You take them to the right people, the ones who are equipped to help, not just react, the ones who see your future, not just your flaws. And if you don't have those people yet, that's okay. You've still got you, and you've still got God. Sometimes that's all you need, because in the silence you find clarity. In the silence you find strategy. In the silence you rediscover your voice, not the loud one you use to prove yourself, but the quiet one that tells you you're still here. You're still fighting. You're still destined for more. And when that voice gets louder than the noise around you, you start to move differently. You start to trust yourself again. You start to rise, not for attention, but for alignment. So the next time life hits you and you feel the urge to broadcast your pain, pause, breathe, ask yourself, who really needs to hear this? And what do I gain by sharing it? Most of the time, you'll realize the answer is nobody. Because the people who matter already know, or they will know when the time is right. And the people who don't matter, they don't deserve a front row seat to your fight. Keep your peace sacred. Keep your pain sacred. Build in silence. Heal in silence. Rise in silence. And when it's time to speak, let your results do the talking. People remember your comeback, not your complaints. In this noisy world, everybody has something to say. Everyone has a story of how life did them wrong, how circumstances broke them down, how they were mistreated, overlooked, underestimated. And yes, some of those stories are real and painful and valid. But here's the truth the world doesn't often tell you. Life doesn't reward you for what you complain about. Life responds to what you conquer. It doesn't remember the pity party. It remembers the person who kept moving forward in the face of chaos, who chose progress over pain, who turned trials into transformation. You see, when you complain, you rehearse your defeat. Every time you speak it, you're building it deeper into your system. You make your problems more permanent in your mind. You hardwire the identity of the victim. And once you identify as the victim long enough, you lose the power to act like the victor. Complaining doesn't fix anything. It feeds the frustration, it magnifies the wound, and it prolongs the storm. You may get attention for a moment, but you won't get a solution. And attention without action is a drug. You'll start needing it just to feel alive. But when you focus on the comeback, that's when the world pays attention. Because people don't admire your pain, they admire your perseverance. They don't look up to the one who never went through anything. They look up to the one who went through hell and refused to let it define them. They remember the fighter. They remember the rise. They remember how you got up, dusted yourself off, and kept showing up. That's what inspires people. Not the problem, but the push. Not the setback, but the step forward. Now, let's be real. The comeback is not easy. It takes everything you've got. It demands a version of you that hasn't been revealed yet. It will stretch your faith, test your patience, and push you to the edge of your mental limits. But hear me, there is a power inside you that only adversity can awaken. There's a fire in your soul that only comes alive when everything else falls apart. Your comeback is not built in comfort. It's forged in chaos, in loss, in betrayal, in silence, in tears, in moments where you think you can't take another step. And then you do. That's what people remember. They don't remember how long you cried. They don't remember how many people hurt you. They don't remember how many nights you didn't sleep. They remember that you made it. That you showed up when it would have been easier to give up. that you fought through the dark to find your light, that you had every excuse to quit and you chose to rise instead. That's the legacy you leave, not the complaint, but the climb. Some people spend years talking about what happened to them, but they never take ownership of what they're going to do next. They get stuck in the story instead of stepping into their strength. But your future doesn't care about your excuses. Your destiny isn't waiting on your comfort. It's waiting on your decision to say, enough is enough. I've cried. I've vented. I've been hurt. But now it's time to build. It's time to heal. It's time to win. You don't have to broadcast your pain to validate it. Your pain is real whether people acknowledge it or not. But if you want your life to change, stop telling the story of the wound and start writing the story of the warrior. Because pain is universal, but comebacks are rare. Most people stay stuck in the cycle. They let the moment define their entire life. But you're not here to stay stuck. You're here to rise, to rebuild, to show the world that it's not about how hard life hit you. It's about how hard you came back swinging. Look around at the greatest success stories. They all have a common thread: adversity. They all faced storms, critics, failures, betrayal. But what made them legends wasn't the story of their struggle. It was the story of their rise. People don't write books about complaints. They write books about comebacks. Because that's where the power is. That's where the inspiration is. That's where the human spirit shines. You've got to understand. Every time you choose to move forward instead of complaining, you reclaim your power. Every time you choose to create instead of complain, you grow. Every time you push, even when it hurts, you expand your capacity. And little by little, step by step, you begin to build a life that's not defined by what happened to you, but by what you chose to do about it. Complaining is easy. Anyone can do it. Most people live there. They bond over it. They find community in mutual misery. But you weren't built for that. You weren't created to dwell in the problem. You were designed to rise in purpose. And if you're going to walk in that purpose, you've got to stop using your words to describe the pain and start using your actions to destroy the limitations. You've got to show the world what faith in motion looks like, what power under pressure looks like, what grace in the grind looks like. Let them see the fruit of your resilience. Let them wonder how you're still standing. Let them witness the glory of a soul that refused to give up. That's the story that matters. That's the story that transforms lives. And that's the story people will remember. Not your problems, but your power. Not your breakdown, but your breakthrough. Not the suffering, but the strength it produced. So yes, cry if you need to. Mourn what you lost. Feel the pain. But don't live there. Don't make your home in heartbreak. Don't build a shrine to your suffering. There's more ahead. There's better ahead. But you've got to get up and move. You've got to shift from telling people how hard it is to showing them how strong you've become. Your silence can hold your strategy, but your comeback will speak for itself. Because people remember the one who refused to stay down, the one who got hit but kept walking, the one who was counted out but counted themselves back in, the one who heard the whispers, saw the doubt, felt the weight, but still decided, I will win. That's the person they write about. That's the person they follow. That's the person they can't ignore. Don't waste your time trying to make people understand your pain. Let them see the results. Let your peace be your answer. Let your elevation be your explanation. Because at the end of the day, your life is your message, and you get to decide whether that message is one of defeat or determination. The choice is yours. You can stay stuck in the cycle of complaints, or you can break the pattern and rise into your comeback. You can keep talking about the mountain, or you can start climbing it. You can keep giving life to the problem, or you can start breathing life into the solution. The world is waiting to see what you'll do, not with your pain, but with your power, not with your complaints, but with your courage. So make the decision today, not to pretend everything is okay, but to believe that no matter how bad it's been, your comeback will be greater than your crisis. Your rise will be louder than your fall, and your story will be remembered not because of what broke you, but because of what you built anyway. That's what lives on. That's what inspires. That's what makes history, and that's what people will remember. Not the problems you had, but the person you became in spite of them.